So, what is the achiever's dilemma? This is a phrase that I started using just tongue in cheek because I was working with so many leaders that were incredibly talented. They were driven internally. They didn't need somebody always pushing them and motivating them. They had the fire in their belly. And honestly, they'd had it there since they were 8, 10, 12 years old. These are the professionals that don't just produce on Tuesdays and Fridays. They show up hungry, with stamina, they get things done, and they move agendas forward. These are the executives who hire me to help them be more effective leaders because they realize they've gotten to a place in their career where their own effort and smarts and stamina is no longer enough. That is the achiever's dilemma. When they reach that point where achieving through others becomes imperative, growing others, cultivating their talents, empowering them, delegating to them is really what leadership is all about. That is the shift from me to we. That is the shift from achieving to leading. It's the shift from executing to creating. And that is the sweet spot of an executive leadership journey where the achiever who has had a tremendous track record of success, they should feel pride. They should feel just great satisfaction in what they've been able to accomplish year after year after year. That is a worthy career. But when it comes to leadership and ultimately what an entire organization needs to thrive, that is when the achiever hits the wall. Now, let's add the layer of crisis. This is when the achiever's dilemma becomes absolutely intensified. We are facing a crisis as a world and every organization, and I mean every family, every school, every healthcare system, every economy, every sector, where we cannot achieve our way out of this. Working harder, longer, faster, being more productive is not necessarily the way out. Do we need to bring our best efforts? Absolutely. Do we need to push ourselves, raise the bar, hold ourselves to high standards? Absolutely. But when you're facing very complex problems, especially ones we have not seen before, effort alone, striving, thriving, achieving, is not enough to get our way out of something this complex and complicated. That is when an achiever needs to actually let go of some of the secret sauce that has given them success up until that point. That's when being collaborative, when stepping back, when trying new things, when slowing down, when actually dropping some things that are necessary in order to pick up new things. Those are new skills. Those are sometimes uncomfortable territory for an achiever. But what we are talking about right now is the real leadership calling, the leadership journey. And I'm here as a coach, as a keynote speaker, as a team development expert to help very smart, talented, hardworking achievers understand how to lead during times of uncertainty, crisis, and complexity. I'm going to give you just a couple things to think about. This is a topic that I'm deeply passionate about. I've been working on this for over a decade. But let me just give you a couple things to think about if any of this is resonating. If you're feeling that you are an achiever who maybe is starting to face some of these dilemmas that will stymie not only your own growth and career, but ultimately the organization and the teams that you serve. The first fallacy or myth that an achiever can fall into is that just because you can do it, you should. This is problematic on many levels because smart, talented people can do a lot of things. You can get an A plus in many, many subjects just because you are a good student who's working hard and putting in the time. That may be fine to get a 4.0 in high school or even in a college career. But as you pursue your adult passions, as you really journey the leadership path, it's easy to start to confuse desire from ability. Just because you're able to do something, you're competent, you're proven, you have skills, doesn't mean over time that you should be doing it. it doesn't mean that that's the area of your greatest gift, of your greatest passion, of your greatest contribution. So that's the first myth or kind of fallacy of this achiever's dilemma, that ability equals yearning, that just being able to do something equals that draw and that conviction of where you can best use your time. The second myth or fallacy that the achiever faces is that just because you did do something, you should keep doing it. So while the first myth is that because I can, I should, the second one is because I did, I will. That is when you continue to take on burdens, responsibilities, roles. And because you're able, because you have great capacity, you have a very, very, very full plate. And while you're taking on things, you're not letting go of things. You're not stepping back so that others can step up. And undeniably, you find yourself in situations where you're overburdened, resentful, and you're overfunctioning while others underfunction. And that's because there's been a pattern of default where you've taken up the load, you've been the good soldier, and there's an element of no good deed goes unpunished. You are taking on so much without really recognizing that, yes, I can do this as a sprint, but can I do this as a marathon? I can achieve this, I can accomplish these extra things that I've taken on. But is that really leading and building capacity in others over time? And it's not. So figuring out how to get out of that is part of the achiever's dilemma. And finally, the third fallacy, the third myth that can really block achievers' growth is the idea that if I don't, no one will. Now, there's a tricky part of this because part of the achiever's gift and contribution to the world is their deep sense of responsibility. They are psychologically committed to what they say they will do. Again, they don't need someone putting the fire under their butt. They have fire in their belly. Their drive and dedication and commitment to what they say they will do rest within them. However, the flip side of that is that sometimes they don't know when to let go, when to say no, when to hand the work back to someone else. And it is true that if you stepped back and someone else did the work, it may not be done exactly the way you would do it. Maybe it wouldn't even be done as well or as fast or as efficiently. But there's a trade-off. It is just part of the human condition that we cannot do all things. We cannot be all things to all people. And if you're finding yourself as a leader thinking you can, even to a little degree, it's really a place of hubris and probably where your blind spot is more predominant than you realize. Because the more you do, the less others have to do. And when you think you have to do it, you end up putting yourself in a place of being a martyr and even unconsciously sending out a message to others that you don't trust that they could actually accomplish that task that lies before them. So these are just a couple of things to think about. 3 of the myths of a whole set of assumptions and challenges and myths and new learnings that achievers can pursue to actually become what they were really truly called to do, and that is to lead, not just to accomplish, but to open up paths of thriving, surviving, learning, and growing for those around them. I hope you join me in this conversation. I hope you're willing to challenge some past assumptions, have some good humor as we look at just these very human tendencies. I love to speak and to teach and to work with groups in a place of no shame and no blame. No one learns when they feel judged. So we have an opportunity to look in the mirror, look at where we're caught in this achiever's dilemma, and especially look at during a time of crisis, how we need to be so clear-eyed about what we're really called to do, not just achieve, but to create, to collaborate, to conquer, and to navigate this time of incredible uncertainty, but incredible possibility together. I hope you join me.